It's good for us. I keep saying that it's good for us. It's good for the class, even though it will appear like this man doesn't know what he's doing to somebody who is in class. So the good thing is we eventually got it. We eventually, if we spent all that time to troubleshoot, to wonder, to navigate, and we didn't get what we were looking for, then it would have been not too good. But it's good that we are encountering all the possible challenges you would encounter. Nothing can be better than that. Nothing can be better than that. So it's much, much, much better than for me to practice beforehand, make sure everything, just arrange everything, make sure everything is looking good, and then just present it to you. And then when you don't get it, I say you are not smart, you are not a good student. No. So I'm doing that for my trainees, not to impress the world. That's why you need to understand it from that perspective. It's good for us to even sometimes deliberately pretend that we don't know where stuff is, just so that you see that there's a real life situation. You don't need to really memorize where stuff is. Just look around as long as you have an idea what you're looking for. How many can you memorize? How many stuff?
The tools are much, you can't memorize all.
So, especially in cloud. I was just looking at my cloud before this class started. Cloud is so voluminous. So voluminous. So voluminous, and I'm tending not to even look at theories anymore. Not to read books. Let's go straight to the thing. Practice it. I think you practice first, second, third. That volume that trainer is trying to explain in 30 minutes, you just get it in 5 minutes. Once you get it, it sticks. So it's the same for every other aspect of IT. All right, so take that with you as we begin to round up on this course. Like I said, it's Windows by itself is voluminous. There are over 8 certifications around Windows alone, just this Windows server that we are discussing. But we're just doing the much we can as a starter and intermediate level user. And the truth is, even if you go ahead to do everything in Windows, it will not be so useful until you start to use them and they stick. If you use them once, you practice with them once, and that's very common with Linux, and you don't ever have reason to use them for the next 3 months, you are likely to forget them. You're likely to forget them until you see them someday in future and say, I've used this thing before. And then, okay, you remember and you can use it. So, in operations, what you would use every day in Windows would be the stuff you learned under, by the way, have I shown you that? The stuff you learned under network administration. What's today? It is Thursday. All right. What you learned under network administration would be the skills you will require on a daily basis. But these other ones about promoting server, about just once in a while. But it's good to know them because it's a competitive world. So once you know something that somebody else does not know, it gives you an advantage. Like I explained to you yesterday, you may eventually not need or not use that skill when you get the job. But you are priced higher, you are respected, and you are actually admitted because you knew it in the first place. And everything you know has a way of boosting your mental capacity, of broadening your mind so that it just shows that you can be trained. What I'm saying in effect is the things you are learning here, you may not use them on a daily basis at your workplace, but they are just there in the background, broadening your mind and opening your creative potential for better understanding of things you do not know now. By the time they come your way, and because of the understanding of these other ones you already have, they will just fall in place. They just fall in place. So that makes you trainable. In my days as a young IT person, certifications were not common. I started IT in 1994 during my youth service. Certifications were not common. Certifications became common. CCNA was the first one around 2002. That was when it became common in Nigeria. By 2003, I was already training people on CCNA. Then other certifications were coming up, Server Plus, and then CompTIA certifications, Security Plus, Network Plus. There were so many of them just coming out from nowhere because IT was taking shape then. And then I looked at this certification. I thought, okay, the world is moving fast. Maybe I need to do one or two other certifications as well. And then by the time I took these books and looked at them, I thought that because of the experience I already had at that time, because I had already done 6 years or so of IT, I found out that I already knew these things. I did not do Security Plus as a certification, but by the time I took the book to start studying, I found out I already knew 80% of Security Plus. I found out I already knew what other certifications were invoked, like 3 or 4 of them. I already knew them inherently. So that's what I'm telling you about that. Because you know these things now, there are things you will come across in future, and then you just look at it. I know this thing now. I know this thing, you know. It will just make sense right away. So even if you must be trained on it, it's going to take much less effort than if you didn't know what you are learning now. Because even though you see them as learning skills, you're actually learning, you are learning models. You know what I mean by models? You are learning, you know, like in pattern. You know, like in science you would learn all the Archimedes principles, Newton's law, all the theorems that make science. That's what science teaches you. Then you now take that principle, those theorems, those fundamentals, those truths outside, and you begin to apply them to different things. Oh, if anything goes up and it comes down, then if I throw this up, you know, you begin to apply them. That's what you are learning here as well. So don't just see it as you are learning you're actually learning the skill, but beyond that, you are taking the theorem, the fundamental principle on which that skill is resting. You are taking it somewhere else to apply it. That will apply everywhere. So the theory of the access layer, the distribution layer, the core layer, the distribution layer, the access layer, as explained in CCNA, is applicable everywhere. In electricity, your electricity is generated from whatever it is generated from. It used to be Kenji dam in my days, but things are changing so fast now. And then they are all the generated power are assembled in a national grid like Oshogbo National Grid. That is from the core to the distribution. From Oshogbo National Grid, they are distributed to the different transformers around your neighborhood. And then from there, it gets to you. Electricity gets to you. That is the same model. In GSM technology, you have your MSC, which is the switch. And then from your MSC, signals and transmission goes to your BSC. And then from the BSC, it goes to the small transformers in your neighborhood, which are called base stations. And then from the base stations, the signals wirelessly gets to your phones. That's the access layer. So they call the distribution in water resources. You are pumping water, you generate water from a major dam, some river basin or whatever they call them in those days. These things don't function anymore. And then they transport water through big pipes to the places where the water is processed. Okay, that is from core to router in IT. And then at the router, everything is processed, and then distributed to water boards. Okay, every district in those days will have a water board, and then that's the distribution. And then from the water board, water now comes to your tap. Wherever location you are in Lagos. Okay, Agege water board. From there, water will come to Ikeja, water will come to. So that is the access. So do you see that once you understand that model in CCNA, you cannot apply it everywhere. So it's the same here. It's the same here. Whether you learn that model in CCNA or everything you want, even as you are designing your own, what would you be designing? Maybe application. It's still the same thing because you are going to have your IT infrastructure, basically the hardware. Okay, in the case of cloud, you'd have the real hardware, the servers. Somebody has to put all of that in place. Okay, somebody at the level of hypervisor 1 will put all the infrastructure in place, make your server is working, everything is working. So that's the core. Then on top of that, you put your platform. What platform do you want to run on this hardware? Is it Microsoft Server Operating System? Is it a Unix operating system? Is it Apple operating system? These are the 3 popular ones, but among these 3, the 2 popular ones that you'll find, Apple is more like, is more proprietary than public. So the public enterprise operating systems will be popularly Microsoft operating systems. There are many versions of them. Microsoft Enterprise Operating Systems, and then Unix. Whether that Unix is Linux or there are different flavors of Unix. All right. So you place that on top of the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure that you already have. You place the platform on it before you now place the application on the platform. So it's also in layers. Those 3 layers, they are repeated everywhere. But once you know how that works, it can be applicable. It is applicable everywhere. So that's just one very common example. And then as you go deeper into IT, you would find other useful theorems, this is the same thing there, just that they call it a different name, that you can extract, put there, and it becomes part of you forever. So whatever question they ask, you just reframe that question to fit into that model. And then you answer it like, how? How did you know that? You already have the model that makes everything work. You just reframe it in your mind the way to fit in, and then the rest is easy. You may not know the exact terms that they call it in that field, but at least you know that for you to get something from the origin where it is generated to the place where it is going, it must fall within those 3 layers of the core, where it is coming from, to the access where it is going. There's a distribution in between. And then, of course, in networking people will be responsible for that. You know, the thing I described about the core being the servers and the type 1 hypervisor persons, that's not where you are. You are at the other level where you put a platform on that core. So if there are issues about networking, about servers, no, that's not your place. Your place is on top of that core, you are now putting the platform, making the platform ready on the servers that are already provided by cloud or by your employer. Okay, that's where your role is. Because if you don't understand that, you don't look at that's your role. You prepare the platform, put the right operating system, make sure it is ready for the applications people to come and put their database, to come and put their website, to come and put whatever they want to put. So you have gone beyond running head-to-skelter and say, they say money is in another area. No, that's somebody else's area. Leave them. There's money everywhere. So don't jump from being a core person to being a distribution person to being focused on where you want to be. All right. So you belong to this class of people by virtue of what you know now, by virtue of your Windows Server administration knowledge and skill. When the server people in that team have prepared the server and say, yeah, it is running, we have a server the processor is good, everything is good for your work, you take over from that point, and then you put your operating system, you configure your operating system for DHCP, DNS, ADS, you make sure everything is fine, you do all the testing that like we did yesterday, and then you say, yes, I've done my work. You know, it's a project, and in the project, there is the project manager, there is the software developers, there are people like you, different kinds, even the users will be part, the users of the application that we're trying to develop will be part of the stakeholders of this project. So once you and your team complete your part, although these days it's not like you complete your part and you hand over and you say I'm done. No, these days you continue to be part of the team, so that it's called DevOps. There's development, your application is tested, and then it's, oh no, you could tweak this function a little so that this application can be, so it's a continuous thing. That's later. So it may not be like a one-off thing, like a turnkey project when it's a one-off thing where I've done my work, pay me and go. No, you remain part of the team, and then it's something that lasts forever. So there'll be updates, there'll be things that are not working that you need to rectify. There'll be things that are working, but you need them to work better. There'll be things that you did not plan for, but that are happening now. So there'll be development, there'll be operation. It will go to operations will run it, it will work fine, it may not work fine. You come back to development, operations will run. So you are there to present to as your, so developers will be doing their work. It doesn't mean that because you are not a developer or you don't have the skills for development. No, that's a different department. It's not your department. Your department is platform. However, you would also, if you want, in future, you could also learn skills that will make you interface smoothly, better with these other people at the top, the application people. So it is DevOps as a course that connects what you know now with what they know, so that even you can even do part of their job sometimes, but not really as a core developer, but just, for example, you are preparing your server to host a website. You are not the website developer. You are not the code, whatever. You don't belong in it, but you should be able to at least run a small website on the platform that you have prepared to make sure, oh, this site is this server that I've created for web services is actually now working. You ping the IP, you browse the IP address, you browse the domain name, and you do all the small tests. It's working before you can now call them. I've prepared that your platform, so I'm no longer the problem. Go ahead and upload your, not really upload, go ahead and put your own application that you need now to begin to develop your own site. I prepared. And then when they are, no, I put in the application, I see that instead of giving me 32, it's giving me 64. I need 64. Then you go back there, 64, you know, just like that. So what point was I making there? I was saying that, yes, stay where you belong, unless, of course, you are no longer happy with where you belong and you want to change, you want to swap roles within IT for the place you belong now. I'm just saying this because I often have to counsel people say, they say this is what's in vogue now. Should I go and train that? You already have one. Why are you training? There's money everywhere. IT is IT. Unless, of course, you discover that you have skills that are more prone, more aligned with something else other than you are doing now. You are fine with where you are. All right. So far, so good. If you know everything, we have at least some 80-90% of everything I have taught you so far. I can tell you that as far as this level is concerned, not all IT, I'm not talking about IT generally, but specifically for network administrations using Windows Server operating system, it's thumbs up for you. Do you know everything you should know on that server? No. Do you know enough to get a job if you practice what you know so well and you understand them. Not just practicing and being able to click, but understanding I talked a lot about principle, the fundamentals, the theorem behind what you do. You understand all of that well. Wow, that's good. And if you don't, of course, you just started. You just 2-3 weeks into IT for some of you, so there's still plenty of room for improvement. You learn, still practice, still talk, still interact with people on the field, watch more videos than I'm giving you. 6 months of consistent work like this, you definitely be a change person. You change. Even if you don't notice it, you will change. Change in terms of you become a better IT person. Your skills will improve. All right, so I've been talking for how many minutes? Are you still there?
Yes, we are here.
All right. All right, questions, contributions? Not really. It's more of an interaction today.
Okay, a question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you were discussing about the infrastructure people setting up, what if they make an error and the error will affect you? Maybe and you've been trying to do some of your connection and it's better.
You let them know.
And you don't know if the fault is from them or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, like I told you, like I explained when you asked a similar question. They're always there. It's not like they solve the problem and then they traveled. You don't have access to them anymore. They're always there. That's why it's development operations. So let them know you are working as a team together. You have issue, let the other team members know. It will be resolved. But in any case, even you were part of the team while they were preparing the infrastructure. Unless, of course, you are buying from a brand name like you are buying cloud space from Amazon. In that case, it's already trusted. Amazon is, after US government, Amazon is the second most trusted company in America. So, for example, I'm just citing that for other big names like that, like Oracle, they are trusted names. So you can trust that if they say something is good, it's good. And if it's not, for any reason, it's not working according to your expectation, the support is always there. So support can help you resolve issues. So always tell them, one way or the other, there will be room, there will be room, there will be room available for you to air your grievances. Well, not grievances because it's not actually your personal grievance, it's part of the project. So the project has to work smoothly. If there is any point in the chain where the project is not working, everybody will focus on it, resolve it, and make sure the project is working. Did I answer your question, madam?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. All right, so all right. So what are you saying? You are seeing your videos, right? Have I shared anything on screen?
Nope.
Yes, sir. So what are you seeing now?
We are seeing you.
We are seeing you, sir. You are not seeing my Word document? No. Okay. All right, so let's play around with some basic questions. These things I expect you to know by now. Today we're actually doing DNS, but I envisage that configuring and installing a backup DNS will not be a big deal. It shouldn't take so much time. We'll have time to play around. We'll see you tomorrow, next week anyway. I have enough videos to watch and enough stuff to practice. So we have two subjects. All right. So what is a lookup IP address? I'm asking you guys questions now. What's it? If I say lookup IP address, what do I mean? No network? Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Anybody, what's a lookup IP address? Or what's lookup? Remove the IP address if that's confusing. Have you heard the word before?
No,
sir.
What did we say that yesterday? In DNS configuration, we saw lookup, forward lookup, backward lookup. Okay, maybe I didn't complete it. So what's backward lookup? What's backward lookup? Yeah, man, what's backward lookup?
Is the reverse of the forward lookup.
So what's the forward lookup so I can understand what it's
That should be one's location.
Sorry, that's to come. Boyega, what did you say?
Yes, for it should be like one's location, like one's IP address. I don't know.
If you don't know why you're saying that.
Okay.
I'm asking people who know.
For lookup is basically resolves domain names to IP addresses.
Yeah, you said that yesterday, Favor. So I was
Okay.
hoping somebody learned from you and will be able to contribute to it.
All right then. Why reverse case?
All right, so I want to configure a domain controller. What OS must I first install in order to configure a domain controller, and why?
Can I answer?
Who is that? Yeah, go on. Who is that?
Okay, you install a Windows Enterprise server, a Windows Enterprise OS, Windows 10 Enterprise OS. You want to set up a server. You install a Windows 10 Enterprise OS.
Let me repeat the question. I want to configure a domain controller. What OS must I first install and why?
Windows Server operating system, because it contains all the, let me say, the architecture needed to accept clients and others.
All right, so I want to configure a domain controller. It has to be Windows Server operating system. Correct, Abiodun. But the second part, it contains what? Because it contains
it's just like a, how do I put it? Say it contains all necessary architecture to manage client and I don't know how to phrase that.
Where did you get the word architecture from? All right, so somebody help him. So the correct answer is server operating system because it contains what? Architecture is not the right word. It contains all the appropriate what?
Resources.
Because it has the right software that is designed for that operation.
Services.
Services is good word. Another good word would be
Resources.
Resources. That's too general.
Roles and features.
Sorry?
The roles and features.
Yeah, that's part of services. Okay, for now, services is the best word. I was hoping somebody would mention. So because it contains the services that you need to configure your domain controller. Only the server operating system contains that. So if somebody was mentioning Windows 10 Enterprise, I don't know what you're talking about. If that was an interview, you have no chance at all. Favor, where are you from? Are you an IT person? Favor Kunta.
Yes, sir.
Are you an IT person?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about you, because you sound so calm and confident. So where are you from?
I'm actually a network engineer here to cross my T's and I's from your awesome class.
Sorry?
I'm a network engineer.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, sir.
Will you have
I'm
a
here to
school?
I'm here to cross my T's and dot my I's with your class.
Yeah, you're already on the right track.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. For anyone here who happens to be looking for, or who has a opening directly or indirectly for a female Windows server administrator, please, I'll need to climb your ladder. So if you have one of my trainees is looking for a job as a Windows server administrator. So if you do have an opening or you know of an opening, I'll be happy if you let me know. So that's by the way. So services is the best word there. Let's go. Okay, so more questions? I need to find out whether what I'm giving is, you are taking it. So it's not just I come to class, I just teach. You tell me that you are learning. All right, so how do you create backup of virtual machines? Even your domain controller. How do you create a backup at this level for what you know so far? So you have a virtual machine and you feel, I need to back this thing up so that if anything happens, I will be able to reverse to this condition. What do I do? Yeah.
Okay, you can do a backup by cloning the old VirtualBox machine.
Okay. Any other way? Any other? No, not any other way. Any better answer?
And also, you can as well do backup of the whole operating system on in another storage device or through the network.
How would you do that? Nuruddin.
Yes, sir.
That sounds to me like tell me how to do that. It's not relevant. Because imagine that this is an interview and I'm asking you these questions with a view of bringing you in to help us do this. So you don't just quote what you read in books. Tell me how you answer these questions from the perspective of, I have had this issue and this was how I dealt with it. All your answers must be from that perspective. Okay. That's very important. Let me just, give me 1 second. So you don't go to interviews to present what you read. You go to interviews to prove that you have done stuff. I don't know if you know what I mean. Do you know the difference?
Yes.
Why is it only Nuruddin Alabi talking? What are the other people?
Oh, we're here, sir.
I said when you go, yeah, okay, I hear you now, but I need you to answer. When you are attending interview and they ask you questions, try as much, if they ask you what is frequency, for example, don't say frequency is the number of circles per second. How does that, I mean, you want to work in a GSM company and they're asking you what is frequency? And then you quote frequency is the number of circles per second and you feel you have gotten the right answer right and you get the job. Who gives you the job when you define frequency theoretically? You should define frequency as it relates to GSM. In fact, mention the frequency that they use in GSM company and how frequency is relevant to carrying their signal. So you should be able to bring it to context. You don't know that by reading. You know that because you really truly understand this thing, because you've practiced it or somebody has trained you. So your answer should always be not from what you read or what you overheard, but from, I have seen this thing, I have practiced this thing, this is how I see it, not how the world sees it. It's a very, very major consideration that will distinguish you from the crowd. Hopefully you get the message I'm trying to pass across.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So Nuruddin has tried enough. Somebody else should take it from there. So what was
This can be done by creating a secondary domain controller.
Okay. Okay. Now I said no. I didn't mention domain controller in my question. Okay. Let me ask the question again. I said, how do I create a backup for my virtual machine? It is my virtual machine that has whatever I want it to have. In this your case, it has the.
Is to simply clone virtual machine.
All right, that was. We've had that answer. We felt there's a better answer than that. If we didn't know better, we'll just clap and say good answer. But there's a better answer than cloning. Cloning is not actually backup. Cloning, you are duplicating. You are making another machine. Yeah, in a way, it's a backup because if you don't change the IP address, during the cloning, if you leave the original, what is that noise coming from? All right, so during cloning, of course, we have cloned many times, so you should know what I'm talking about. During cloning, if you don't change there's a place we click to say generate new MAC addresses and other features. If you leave the original new MAC address and the features, and you are just duplicating this machine exactly the way it is, yes, it is a form of backup. But there's a better way to back up virtual machines. So clone is not completely wrong, but there's a better way.
Hello, sir.
Nuruddin Alabi.
Yes, another way by which you can do a backup of the present state is doing a snapshot.
Snapshot is the answer. Thank you. Snapshot. It is the way, not another way. It is the way to do backup.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, snapshot is your answer. For virtual machines, snapshot is it. Yeah, cloning in a way, yes, but snapshot is the standard answer. All right. A domain can have one, okay. A domain can only have one domain controller, true or false. Whether it is true or false, it does not matter for me. What matters is the explanation behind your answer. Explanation behind your answer. So in a domain, you can only have one domain controller, true or false. If you are answering, then you must be ready to explain your answer. If you say true,
false.
Okay, let me give it a try.
All right, $1.
Yeah. Okay. I will say false.
Okay.
I entered your class late, but I already mentioned it, primary domain controller and secondary domain controller.
Okay.
So I think it's not compulsory that means what? One can do, but it's not compulsory that it's only one that can work on it. I'm thinking the secondary is a fallback, like a backup plan for maybe to create redundancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you seem to be using these terms well, even though you are new in class. So that means you have some form of IT background already.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, okay, let's hear from somebody else. Not bad. Yes, who else wants to support the motion? Yeah, Anthony.
Okay, maybe we can say a domain can have only one active domain controller.
Where did you learn that? Was it from me?
I think so. We mentioned something of that nature, but you can activate.
That's the best answer. Well done. Well done. Thank you so much. And I like your emphasis on active. Best answer. See that at interview, I'll just look at my colleague and say, looks like we are getting the right person. We'll just wink at each other and then we'll continue. Thank you, Anthony. All right. Next question. Explain. I try to join a computer to the domain and I get DC could not be contacted error. What possible issues?
There is possibly no communication between the client and the server you are connecting to.
Yeah,
possibly
not
not on the
contacted
same,
means there's no communication. So what are the
possibly
possible
not
issues?
on,
How do I
possibly not
troubleshoot?
on this, possibly not on the same IP segment.
All right, so you want to take a deeper look, closer look at the IP addresses and make sure they are on the same subnet, one.
Yes, sir.
So that's one way. Any other way to, there are many possible things that could be responsible. So I want to look at them one by one. That is one.
If also the domain controller
Okay,
is
that's okay. Who is
running.
talking? That's okay. That's okay. You've answered
Yes,
one.
sir.
That's good. So you passed that. There are other people. Suleiman.
Firewall.
Firewall.
Yeah.
Prevent would result in no communication between two. Not exactly. No. Firewall can only prevent pinging, unless you are telling me that this your issue is with pinging. Once pinging is aside pinging, firewall does not prevent two systems within the same network from seeing each other.
Okay.
Yes, even though.
Please online.
Yeah, generally firewall will not prevent. Firewall will protect the entire network and protect it from outside, from intruders from outside. But between two computers on the same network, generally no. So that's not a good answer. But good attempt anyway. Yes.
What about the?
Don't tell me. I don't want to hear what about you. Tell me exactly what.
Okay. All right. An issue of fully qualified domain name could also be the reason for, right?
You're taking us beyond the scope of the question. What's the question? Please mute yourself. You know you are talking and you are distracting us. You are disturbing us.
Hello, sir.
Go on, talk now.
Okay, one of the ways to resolve that is to use the IP address of the domain control on the DNS IP address for our secondary domain controller.
You lost me. What was the question? And where did we? Let me look at the question again. Maybe I forgot the question. I tried to join a computer to, and I get this error. Okay, so what are the possible issues? Somebody already talked about IP addressing. That it's possible that the IP addresses are not on the same subnet.
On the same.
So what are you adding to that?
Okay, what I'm adding to that is this: the IP address of the domain controller will be the DNS IP address for the client, for the computer.
No, you are not communicating. I'm not, as long as I'm not understanding you, then you are not answering the question. That's
Another reason, sir, could be that. Other reasons could be that the network adapter setting might not be compatible as well.
Correct. So check your. So what should the network adapter setting be? What state should it be on?
Host-only adapter.
Correct. So these are possibilities because we are talking about virtual machines here. Correct. So these are the places you check. What other place? What other possibility? What other checks do you have to make?
You need to be sure the DC is running.
Yes, of course, the DC is running.
Okay.
Yes. What else? Two good answers. Any other good answer?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. You have not assigned a user for that system as a user for that domain.
We are trying to join domain. We have not even joined, so we have not even gotten to the level of operating user. Many possibilities.
Yes. Also, if the domain controller is properly configured or is configured.
Yeah, that first answer has taken care of that, because once you check the IP addresses and they're on the same subnet, yeah, it's properly configured. In fact, there is a domain already. That's why we're trying to join computer to domain. If it wasn't properly configured, then there'll be no domain.
If your cable is not connected.
Correct. Who is that?
Madam.
Where are you?
I'm here.
I don't see any Odun here.
Madum.
Okay, Madum. Okay, Madum. So it's pronounced Modun.
Madum, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, good. Good. Because these are practical issues. I think Modun has mentioned that before. Modun brought that question, and then, you remember?
I asked the question, yes.
Yes. It just, that treats me anytime I hear it, because it just shows that is hidden. Not everybody knows that. So it was the comment I gave the last time, the same comment. All right? Yes. Favor Kunta.
Yes, sir, with you, sir.
What are you contributing now?
I'm listening to the class, sir.
Sorry?
I'm listening to the class.
Yes, we need your contribution. We're not able to join computer to domain. We're troubleshooting now. So tell us over the phone what we should check.
Ensuring that the DNS server is on the client system, the DNS server is well allocated.
It's well what?
It's well allocated in the sense that I had that same issue when trying to join the client to the domain, and I didn't specify the DNS on my client end. As in the DNS to be the same, the IP address of the domain itself, where you have DNS and the alternate system. So I actually had that issue. So as soon as I went there to just put that same thing, since it was not the domain to have the 1.127.0.0, so having the same one as the IP address of the domain resolved that issue. So ensuring that the DNS is here.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so you want to separate that from the IP addressing. Yeah, that's correct. Yes, that's the problem. And there's a bigger problem that, you see, when you configure, like the DNS problem, the DNS, was it DNS we did yesterday? Yes, DNS. When you configure DNS, okay, let me give you a practical example. The DNS we have now, the DNS server, if we make the secondary DNS server our primary now, we're going to have that problem again. That problem you said you resolved by entering the appropriate DNS server on the client side. So we're going to have that problem.
Yes,
they cannot remove all those ones and go in place.
Is she talking to us?
No, sir.
All right. So a problem you would have that would come up is when you are playing around with these things. You have a DNS server. If you remove DNS server and you try to join a new computer, you may not notice it on the existing client. But if you try to join a new computer, a new machine as client to the domain, you are going to have that issue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are going to have the issue where it will not just be a matter of changing the IP address, the DNS IP address on your client, but going back to your new, to configure DNS on the existing machine if you removed one. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, so, clearly I get that, sir.
Yeah, you will get that. Uyo, did you have that problem? See, you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so a problem you could have is you have a DNS server and something went wrong with your DNS server, either because you clicked it as secondary or because you removed the primary DNS server. I mean, while you thought you still had your, in fact, you could even remove the secondary, but your primary DNS server is still there. Your primary DNS server. But you remember the configurations you did about detach from DNS and make it So because
Yes.
of that one, you may not be able to join new systems to your domain. So the solution would be to go back to whatever server you are retaining now as your primary DNS server and reconfigure DNS server.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is, yes, Favor resolved the issue by changing the IP address at the client side. But for other complex cases, you may need to go and leave the current IP address on the client side, then go to the server that has that IP address and redo your DNS services. Because when you clicked detach and the other one that you introduced, you have deleted. So you not remember that. Why is this DNS server? In fact, would it even tell you? Yeah, it might tell you that I'm not able to connect to this domain and then to speak some jargons, but you see DNS somewhere there. It will mention DNS. So if it mentions DNS as a problem, it is either one, you use a Favor's approach to change your DNS server IP address on the client, or two, which is what I experienced, and actually spent some time resolving that. Two, go back to the server and reconfigure. It's already loaded. Reconfigure. And you will not know because it's loaded. So your mind will not even go to, why do I need to go and reconfigure? I already reconfigured it. Reconfigure is so simple. It's just a wizard. Tools, DNS, next, and that's it. And then you come back and be able to join computers, that same computer to domain. That's a bit deep. If you have not practiced that, you will not understand it. And if you practice that and you give that as a possibility at interview, you have won. You have won, because anything that took you that deep to go and to come to experience that problem and then you're able to resolve it, no, you are good. You are good. So somebody else will come in and say, I can do DNS, and then we just talk about DNS on the surface level. On the surface level, we call it high level. And then another person can come in and talk about this same thing at a low level, at a deeper level. It's not as if the first person was wrong. In fact, at the time of the first person, the interview panel was so impressed and they were already looking, we'll get this guy, this guy is good. But a better person came up with it. And then you get to the final stage of the interview and they say, sorry, there's only one position. In fact, in Nigeria, they will not tell you, but here they will tell you, there's only one position, you were good, but ultimately we found somebody who, okay, they will say it in a subtle way, but what they mean is somebody who knows it better. If that person wasn't there, if that person don't come along, then you probably would have been the next best person to get it. All right. So far so good. Thank God we're recording this so you can look at them later if you're not understanding what we're saying now. What else? What are the questions? If your DC fails, you lose access to your domain. Is that not correct? If your domain controller fails, you lose access to your domain. That's right, right? Talking to myself.
Okay.
Yes, that is right, sir.
All right, that is right. So if my domain controller fails, I lose access to my domain, because without my domain controller, I cannot gain access. So what can I do to mitigate against this incident?
It can only be right if you don't have a backup domain controller.
So what can I do to mitigate against that incident?
Through redundancy and reliability, which is the act of snapshotting your DC.
No, Victor. Through redundancy, that part's correct.
I think you created secondary.
Hold on. Victor, when you
Yes,
started with reliability through redundancy, I was already saying, wow, this guy started very well. But that's the only part that is correct.
Okay, sir.
Snapshot is not the way to create redundancy. So can you try harder a way to create redundancy?
Okay, sir, it was because the I learned that this snapshotting means that it's a way to back up your virtual machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here we are talking deeper than backing up virtual machine. We are talking about creating redundancy for the domain controller on your network, so that we don't lose access to domain.
Oh, okay, means
All
I
right,
have to go back to my class and learn better.
You're already in class and you're already with the trainer, so there's nothing to learn better. All right, so who can take it from there? So he started well with the redundancy talk. So what do we do from that point? How do we now do the redundancy?
No, this one, I know that.
So who can help us?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
We create a secondary DNS server and DHCP, and then we'll configure it.
Is there a better answer than that? Is there a better answer than that?
It can be achieved through creating a secondary domain controller.
Okay. So what would the secondary domain controller do?
It will be more of a standby domain controller in case the primary domain controller fails.
Yeah, everything you said is correct, but I will not give you the full mark because there's a word I'm looking for. Just like I was happy when Victor mentioned redundancy, there's another word that will just complement everything you said. You don't say that word.
Backup domain controller.
Who can give me the word I'm looking for?
Alternative domain controller.
Huh?
Automatic failover.
Alternative domain controller.
No, what I mean is everything you have explained to you. What do we achieve? What does it result in? What do we now? What have we? There's a word that just tells me that this is what you are trying to do by all the backers, all the other grammar. That this is what you have achieved. Very important word. Yes, try. You need to look at your book or something. There is a word that will just put a crown on your explanation.
Redundancy.
We already talked about redundancy. We already talked about. There's another word that we need to.
Can you explain that? That's the download of my system. That printer.
What's the word? Man, I need to get water and drink because I can't be talking, and you are just. You have to get that word.
It duplicates.
Anthony, give me 1 second. Anthony, I keep muting you because you are distracting class and you keep unmuting yourself and disturbing us. If you disturb us again, I'm going to remove you. So if you need to talk outside class, mute yourself, do what you are doing. But once you unmute, make sure you are talking to us and you are not disturbing us. All right, so somebody was saying something. I'm looking for a word that will explain everything that Uyo said. Uyo's answer is the best answer, but without that word, I cannot call it best. Introduce failover by doing what? By doing backup so that it will do this, so that I understand what you are saying, but what's the real word? What would the backup do to the primary domain controller? That's the best clue I can give you. What would the backup domain controller do with the primary domain controller? What will it do? Chinedu.
Okay, hello, sir. To migrate the resources.
There's
to
nothing
migrate.
like migration.
Wow.
Migrate is not the word. Chinedu, you are just wearing dark glasses and staring at me there. You are not even contributing. Chinedu, Agushi. I'm sure he's there. What's the word? Want me to give you 15 minutes to look for the word? Adam Siluna, what's the word I'm looking for? Pedro Okunta, you know the word now. Why are you there? What's the word I'm looking for? It's not migration. What does the backup do with the primary domain control?
Can we say integration?
Huh?
Can we say integration?
Integration?
It duplicates.
So what's the
to duplicate?
It's not exactly duplicating IT term. Yeah, if you were talking to a non-IT person, duplicate will fit in. But in IT terms, it's more than duplication.
It replicates.
Replication. That is the word.
Well, I said replication.
Thank you. Olasu comment. So
Is Adam
replicate. Oh, Adamson. Okay.
I said replication.
So replicate. So introduce redundancy by replicating your DC1 into another DC. So the new DC will be your secondary domain controller. Replicate is the word. Duplicate just means make a copy and you have one. Replicate means whatever is happening here is automatically being transferred. Replicate. Replicate is the word that took us so long. All right. Next question. Replica is not the same thing as backup. A replica is not the same thing as a backup. There's difference. A replica is not the same thing as backup. Backup will be static. If I back up today, when I go back to my backup, I will meet the server in the state that I backed it up 5 minutes ago. But replication means that it's continuously being backed up. It's a continuous thing. So up to the last minute, depending on the configuration. But usually in cloud, up to the last 5 minutes. So replication backup may sound the same, but they are not the same. So, good interview questions. All right, bringing up a replica. Okay, so that's about it. That's all the questions I want to share with you as far as interview questions. You can add more. All right. Did I show you this first before we go on? DNS servers, folder level permission. Okay, let's do something. Let's learn something new today. So what are we learning today? Dhcp, but not yet because that one is so simple. Like I said, I expect it to be so simple. But if it turns out not to be simple, whatever issue we meet, we'll resolve them. So let me reduce this one, minimize, no. So let me share my screen. Where's my share button? Share screen. Okay, can you see now?
Yes.
So I have my primary domain controller and my secondary domain controller. What do I want to show you? Let me show you how to share resources, how to share files and folders. As a client, let me No, I don't even need the secondary. Let me shut down the secondary. I'll bring this up when I want to. Okay, let me just minimize it because I'll need it to configure my DHC. So let me log you in as a client. Do we have a client? Let's start the client machine. So our client is started. So let me quickly create an account for you on the domain controller so that you can be a user on this domain. Everyone knows how to do that. So I say, all right, let's quickly create account. What's the account? To create account, you know where to go. Tools, Active Directory users and computers. Somewhere, this is covering it. Let's shut this. Let's close this. All right, so it's here. Active Directory users and computers for this domain. We say users, and then we say create new. New what? New user. Did we create Jumbo earlier on? Okay, let's do.
Yes.
Let's quickly create a new one. Do I have Aki? Let's see what users we have so that we delete them and create new ones. So users, J, Jumbo. Let's. Or should we just use Jumbo instead of creating a new one? We've forgotten the password, right? Let's use Jumbo. We already have Jumbo here. Do we also have Aki? No, the only user we have on this network is Jumbo. Let's quickly create another user. New user, Aki. Aki. My password, let's use daily 2020 for all our passwords. I don't want to change password at next level. All right, so I've created the password and then that's my account. All right, so now I'm a user on the domain. Let me go and log on from the client. So I load my client and then I say login. Login, control delete. Log into TTC Mobile as other user. Sign into TTC Mobile. What's my username? Aki. And my password, daily. All right, so I'm logging into the domain now using this client. So I want to share resource. I want to share folder. What do I share? Okay, let me share from the domain controller. So I go to the domain controller, for example. I'm done here. Let me just do normal stuff. So let me create a folder here on the domain controller. To create a folder on the hard disk, I double click, right click and say new. New what? New folder. What do I want to call the folder? Test. Testing. All right. So if I right click this folder, I can say properties. And I say, excuse me, let me just shut that phone down. 1 second. All right, I'm back. So I will do sharing. I'll say share. I'll say share this folder. I'll click share. I'll say, let me start again. Properties. Share. What's my what I should say. It's a different view. There's something all right there. Security. Yeah, I'll come to security, but first I want to share. Testing, network folder, network file, and folder sharing, yes? Share this folder. There's something I expect to see that I'm not seeing. Share. I'm having trouble sharing. Okay. We need a new tool. Okay, let me not share from. I'll come back to share it from domain controller. Normally I should be able to do that. Let me share as. I create a second client now. That will take it a long time. So I'm on the client now. Let me create a folder on the client and share. On the domain controller as administrator. So where's my? All right, so right there. C drive. Let me open through there. Okay, this PC. Open your C drive. Let's create a folder here. New folder. Let's call it. Give it a name. Another test, since we already have test. All right, right click. Properties. Sharing. Okay, same thing. Something I'm not doing right. This is to be simple. I need to see the list of I don't want to enter that manual. Okay, go back to domain controller. This PC. Testing. Properties. Sharing. Share this folder. Okay. All right, so let's go on. There's always a way around everyone, but there's something I expect it to show me. There's something that I expect it to show me that it's not showing. Something I'm doing wrong somewhere. All right, so I can add everyone just to simplify this so that we can move on. And I can add, what's my username? I can add, normally, I didn't want to type these things in full because what about if I didn't remember my username? So it should have given me a place here where I can say, oh, I don't remember the username, and then I can pick from the list of users. But don't worry, we'll get it. Maybe this is just something I forgot to do. But basically,
sir.
yeah, sorry.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yes. I think that would be possible if we have some other user that has been created on the same domain with this client system.
No,
like,
we're on the domain controller.
say,
No, don't worry about
yes.
it. That's not the reason, but don't worry. Maybe just in tools, there's something I just need to activate so that I can see what I need. Okay, but once you create a folder, what are we trying to achieve here? What we want to achieve is on the network, as a user, you are blocked from everything by default. So whatever I want to share on the domain, I'll have to make it available so that you can see it. So what I want to do now is to create a file in testing and make it available so that everyone, or specifically in this case, if it's A hacking, will be able to see that folder when he logs in. When A hacking logs in, and he cannot even connect to this folder, not to talk of being able to open it and seeing the files inside. All right. So to share it and make the content available, I do two things. The first thing I do is I right click and I say properties. Then I say sharing. Then I say share. I say share this folder. I must, for this case, I will enter share this folder with everyone. Everyone means every member of the domain. Every domain. No, everyone is everyone. Don't worry about that. It's different from domain users. If that table opened, I would have been able to show you this thing. Or I can also say every domain user. Okay. Maybe it's one word. I can't be experimenting now. So everyone. So what kind of rights does everyone have on this folder? Everyone should be able to read or read and write. Read and write means I can make changes. I can see as well as make changes. Read means I can only see, but I cannot make changes. All right. So let's take read and write and say share. So that folder is now shared with everyone. That's why you see this sign, whack, whack, // DC1 testing. That's the partner. All right. So let us go and attempt to log on to this folder from the client. And it will be possible only because it has been shared. So let's go to the client. This client 1. All right. So we are logged in as A hacking. A hacking is part of everyone, so that's not a problem. So to access that folder, I should be able to say whack whack. This is called whack whack. What's the name of that system? Just that part that was shown to us. DC. No. Let's look at. Can you see this? Whack whack DC1 testing. Can you see this gray?
Yes, sir.
Entry. Whack. Write it down. It's not the regular slash like that. This is the backslash. It's pronounced whack whack. All right. DC1 testing. So that is what you go to wherever you are logging in. Anyone is logging in from. In this case, from client 1, and say whack whack DC1. Okay. / testing. It's not case sensitive. All right. So sitting in Nigeria remotely, for wherever, you are now able to open a folder on another system because that folder is shared. Look at the folder. So we are over the network and it's connected to the computer DC1. It just happens to be the server in this case because we don't have so many of them. Normally we should be doing it from the main controller. And then in the folder testing. So that is how to share a folder. And this is how to access a share folder from a remote system. The whack whack is very important. Anywhere you see whack whack, it means connect over the network. So if you are trying to connect to a resource, specifically a folder over the network, any resource for that matter, but in this case, a folder, if it does not start with whack whack, you are not doing anything. You will be there from, if you try anything, as long as that network is not there to say, this resource I'm trying to connect to is not local to my system. If it was local to your system, it would just be one whack. But because it's on the net, on a different server on the net, on the same network, over the network, you say whack whack. Very important. All right. So now we've been able to connect. All right. So let us go there now. And then let's go to, that's client 1. Okay, maybe you don't believe that what we have done. Let us remove the sharing and see what happens now. All right, so let us say share, and then we are no longer sharing with everyone. Let us remove. So it's no longer, there's no folder there anymore. It's no longer shared. Let me just make sure. Right click, properties. Sorry. Right click, testing, properties. So it's no longer there. So the folder is not shared. So if the folder is not shared, then are you still able to log in from a remote system? No, you will not be able to log in. So let's see. Let's even create the folder, but yeah, okay, the folder is there, but it's not shared. All right, so when we did that, it opened the folder. Now let's do it again. So we come back here, we scroll down, and we enter here, whack, connect me over the network to the folder, to the system DC2, and then to which folder? Which folder is shared here? Testing, right? And then what do we see? There is nothing. It's not displaying anything. It's not opening anything. It's just a command here. Okay. But even if you do not remember the name of the folder, in this case, testing, if you say whack DC2 and you enter, it's going to show you the resources that are shared, only the resources that are shared and to which you can have access on DC2. So by default, these two folders are shared on DC2. It's by default, you didn't have to share it. By default, anything you want to share, just put them here. Sysfold and the net logo. Okay, let us go and share one more folder on DC2 and see if it will appear here. We're just testing it. So we come to, even though this system is labeled primary domain controller 1, the actual name that the system calls it is what? What's the actual name that the system calls this, the network calls this? Oh, DC1. Why were we entering DC2?
Administrator.
So the name of this system is DC1.
DC1, yes.
DC1. Where did I get DC2? Let's do it again. All right, so let's, the name of this system is computer name DC1. That's what we refer to. Not, this is just a label on the body. Primary domain controller 1 is just a label on the body. The real name is DC1. So let's create another resource here. So we go to folder. We open our C drive. Let us delete this so that it's not confusing us. So let us create a new folder and call it what? Call it this, no, to coincide with it. Call it hacking. All right. So let us share this folder. Properties. Sharing. Share this folder with everyone. But if I want, I can share with a particular person and not everyone. But for now, let us share with everyone. We add, everyone is now here. What is everyone able to do? Everyone is able to read and write to this folder. Share it. All right. So whack DC1 hacking is the path to get there. All right, done. We are done here. Let us go and see if we can see that folder we just created. So if we come here and we say whack DC1. If we press enter, we expect to see all folders that are shared on that computer, and hacking is one of them. So have I convinced you now that this thing is working?
Yes, sir.
Please, you need to talk now. I'm running out of time. I need to quickly show you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, right. I'm convinced.
So this is how hacking is shared. All right. So if I go back there now on your own now, you go back and remove it and you see that it's no longer available here. Now, if I open, I'm able to open. The reason I'm able to open is because I have read and write permission. Okay, let me go there now. Let me go back to, let me just show you the difference between read and write. And then I'll put a file in there. Let's go back to hacking And then on everyone, I say you can only read, you cannot write. I say share. All right, done. Close. All right, so let's go back to any system on our domain now. In this case, our client one. Let us close this. Let's close this. Windows cannot. We already saw it. That one is telling us I cannot access. So the thing I'm trying to show you is already showed me. But let me still do it so that whack DC what? What's the name of that system? DC1.
DC1.
All right, it's still showing me hacking. But if I attempt to open it now, DC1. Okay.
Yes, it will open, but we will not be able to create folder or put anything inside.
Okay, so
you
let's
can
say.
Only see the content inside.
Okay, we can only read. You are right. Look at it. You need permission to perform this action. All right. So this is the difference between read. Thank you. Who was that?
Shanusi, sir.
Shanusi, yeah. So this is read only. Now let us put a file. So if we now put a file inside PDC, we'll go back to hacking here and we'll say create a file here. Just double click. We're on the PDC, so creating file is not a problem. New. What do we create? Let us create a test file. What do we call it? Sanusi. .text or doesn't matter what. .tct. Let us put a content there. Let us write something. This is only an experiment. All right, so now we have created a file, and then we have saved that file, sanusi.tct, inside hacking. All right, so if we go back here now, let's go one step up, and then we'll open hacking, and then we'll see. Okay, we are still able to open. Okay, however, if we make changes, before we talk about file, sorry, I'm rushing, I'm forgetting something. Before we talk about file, let us do something. The thing that we said earlier on is about folder. Let us go back to this place, to DC1, check. So when we say sharing, whatever we set under here is concerning the folder, not concerning the file inside the folder. So like Sanusi observed, when we say read only, we are able to read the folder, but it's only when we try to do something with the folder that we are not allowed to do it. Like create another folder inside that folder. It says we don't have permission. But if we say read and write, then we're now able to see the folder and also create folders and write to the folder. So let's leave it there. All right. So that's for folder. When it comes to file, then we have to go to security. For security, we now say everyone, system, these are the people that are able to do stuff. For everyone, let us say, for everyone, let us edit, and then we say deny. So if the default state, while we're able to open that is, okay, don't worry about it. So if it was like this, it means that everyone, nobody will be able to modify the content of this file. Nobody will be able to read and execute. Nobody will be able to see the file. Nobody will be able to do anything at all. But if I take everyone and I say read, it means that everyone will be able to read the file, but they cannot change, they cannot modify the file. That file is sanusi.tct. If I say write, it means that everyone will be able to read the file and write to the file. You can modify it. If there was a mistake in the extension, instead of txt, I put t, you can change it. If I say list folders, it means that you'll be able to list the content of folder, and that's all you can do. You just be staring at it. You'll not be able to do more than that. But if I say full control, it means that you're able to do all things. Modify, read, execute, list, folders, everything. But the only difference between full control and the owner of the file is that it is the owner of the file that has ownership. Full control is also able to do everything the owner of the file can do, but he does not have ownership. I still have power over the person who has full control. So for the purpose of this demo, let us give full control, or let us deny completely everyone and say apply. You have denied everyone group access to Akin. Yes, I know. So, okay. So even though I shared the folder and I said full permission, I have denied everyone access to the file, the content of the folder. All right, so with this new permission set, let us now go back to the client. All right, and attempt to do what we did before. Let us close this so that we are not doing old stuff and things. Move this away from here, and then shut this, shut this. All right, so we're starting fresh now. Let us connect to that network resource. To connect to network resource, what do I do? Your answer is whack whack. Don't bother about the other one. And then what's the name of that computer, that machine? DC1.
DC1.
All right. So DC1 still displays that I have access to the folder Akin. But if I open it, at this level now of opening, I'm now talking about file level permission. Do you get this?
Yes.
Windows can access DC1 because this is all I have access to as far as folder is concerned. Anything I attempt to do from here is file level permission. And I've said deny everyone access as far as file is concerned. That's why it's showing me this error. All right. So let me quickly go back now and say give everyone access and then come back to attempt to do this thing. It should work. So this is how you can deny people access to network resources. If it was a printer, a folder, a file, it's the same thing. So let me go back to Akin, say properties. Actually something. Akin, properties. Sharing is for folder level permission. We have no problem with that. What we have problem with is file level permission, and that is security. So we'll go to everyone and we'll say edit our security permissions. Instead of denying everyone, we'll give everyone full control. And then we'll say apply. Okay. Everyone will be happy now. They've given us full control to that resource. Maybe that resource contains the bank account of all the MDs in the world or something. So it's executed. So now let's go and implement it from any machine in the world as long as it is connected to that domain. All right, in this case, the only machine we have to experiment from is client 1. So we go back to client 1, and then we say, connect me over the network, whack whack, to the system DC1. If I like, I press enter, it will show me all the shared resources, or I can just type the folder straight. What's the name of the folder we're trying to connect to? Okay. And then it takes us there straight away. And you see now that we are now able to open the content. Before we could not open it. If it was before, I would type Akin to tell us no access. And we can even now change the content. We can modify because we have full control. We can do everything. And say, this is a modification to this file. And then we press enter. And then we save. It will allow us to save it. Because we have, everyone has full control. But if I didn't want everyone to have full control, so that's that. We're done with that. If I didn't want everyone to have full control, just my selected person, my favorite person, then I'll go to Akin, back to DC1, I'll say properties, and I'll say, I give everyone full control in security. Everyone is abusing it, so I'm going to remove everyone. All right? So I say edit for everyone. I click everyone, I say remove. I say the only person, or I can say, I can leave it and deny whatever I want. Or I can say the only person that I want to give full control to this folder is, yes, this is what I was expecting to see in the other place. We are seeing it here now, so we are fine. It's A what? I can't even remember the username. So I now say check names. No, I'm just pretending I don't remember. So if I say check names, now give me all the names of all users starting with A. So I now say, okay, this is the one I was trying to. So I'll take it. All right. So A Akin. Any other person that I love someone that I want to add, I can add. So if I now take A Akin and I say give A Akin full control. All right. I say apply. Then I say, who else do I know? Then I go back there and I say add. There's somebody I know. His name starts with John. I can't remember his surname or something. J-O. All right. So I say, okay. Oh, John Bull. Then he takes it. And I say, okay. Oh, but for John Bull, I don't want to give full control. So I click John. I don't want to give full control. So I can say, John Bull can only see, but will not be able to modify. So I say, read. And I say, apply. So even though John Bull and Akin both have access, file level access to the resource, John Bull can only read, whereas Akin has full control. All right? So that's how to share resources. So if I go back here now and I sign into the client as John Bull, which I don't have time to do, John Bull will not be able to do the things that I did when I signed in as Akin. All right, any question with file level and folder level permissions? Folder level permissions affect the folder, and you do that with shares. File level permissions affect the file, and you do that with security. Just right click the resource, in this case folder, go to properties, and you see sharing and security. I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with this. This is okay. The thing I was looking for, it's been a while I run this. The thing that I expected to see, I will see them under security, not under sharing. So we are fine with this. I was expecting to see this so that I can pick names when I forget names. So everything good? Do you understand that? Any quick question before I show you the Dhcp configuration? So one of the real reasons you are forming domain and doing network and doing all of this is such that to be able to do this file level and folder level permission, be able to share resources on the network. Most of the time with everyone, but occasionally with specific people, giving different levels of permissions to different people depending on who they are in the organization. It's not the same level of permission that you give to somebody with account manager, a manager that you also give to somebody who is a youth corper. Different levels of permissions depending on what the company policy says. All right. So are you now able to do file level and folder level permissions?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
All right. What's another name for file level permissions? You see, when you are doing file level permissions, see you are setting what? So you are setting security. When you are doing folder level permission, you see you are setting what?
File sharing.
File sharing. Sharing. Say you are doing sharing. Yeah. So technically, you say I can do sharing and I can do sharing, I can do security, or better still, I can do share permissions and security permissions. It doesn't make good English, but as a technical person, I understand what you are saying. All right, so practice that. Because what's the use? You have a network and you cannot control who has access to what and what. And then, of course, if you have practice group, you know, I told you to practice group in previous assignment, you can now say properties, and then you already created a group for, you already created a group for corpers or for managers, so you can now come here and you add that group. It's not just usernames that you have here, you also have groups here. You can add groups, okay? So if you make all managers a member of the managers group, and then you can come here and say managers as a group to show. Do you have managers there? An object manager cannot be found. If you found it, you would have just shown it. And just by adding managers group here, you are able to give all 700 managers in that group access to this security access to this folder by a single click. All right. Consider that, practice that. All right, so that's folder level and file level sharing. Now, the main thing I want to show you today is how to create a backup DHCP, which I have said is very, very simple. So simple that I wasted so much time to come to it. All right, any problem with this? Want to shut down our client? Want to shut down our client? Anything you want us to revise with client?
Sir, how does it apply to giving permissions to printers as well?
Well, that's not something we can cover here, but it's basically the same thing. But first, we have to set up the printer, and then we can now right-click the printer and take properties and follow this same procedure. You want to experiment with that? And then if you're not able to do something, you can let us know. You have a printer, you set up the printer, especially when that is a network printer. You set up a network printer like you are setting up a system. The network printer will have an IP address like your system on the domain has an IP address, because the network printer is generally available to the entire domain. So right-clicking and taking properties will now be able to give permission to specific persons. Some people will be able to print, some people will be able to queue, some people will be able to alter the queue and say, oh, I'm now priority. Instead of 30 just waiting on queue, I can put myself at number 1 if you configure the permissions on the printer will allow me to do so. But like I said, it's a bit above what we can cover in June. All right, so we shut down this one, and then we load the secondary domain controller so that we can configure DHCP server backup for DHCP server. What was that word that you came up with?
Replicate.
Replicate, yeah. All right, so all right, so to do anything DHCP, we'll come to the primary first, like you asked. So configure DHCP here first, before we can even talk about replicating it somewhere. So tools, DHCP. For this domain, IP version 4, new scope. You remember we did this before? The name of this DHCP scope, let's call it TTC mobile. Mute yourself. There's noise in your background. Let's call it TTC mobile. All right. This is a DNS for TTC mobile domain. Just description. And then assign IP addresses from 192 to what?
254.
254, 100, 1, all the way to 192, 254, 100, 254. All right. And then reserve, if we wish, it's not compulsory, but we may just say reserve the ones from 192.254.100. Reserve from 1 to 10 or to 99. We started assigning from 100. So 192.254.100.99. All right, so that's not compulsory, but we just decided to. Yeah. Yes, I want to configure these options. For my gateway, always assign, when you're assigning IP addresses automatically, always assign 192. No. Always assign 192. My keyboard 192. 254.100.1. Always assign that to my gateway. And then DTCMobileworld.com is the primary domain. The name of my DNS current DHCP server is that. And then, no, it picked this from the correct configuration. You remember we entered 8.8.8 yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, so we just picked it from where we entered. So there's nothing here to do. Wins, we don't need wins. Activate scope, of course, activate scope, finished. All right, so we have configured DHCP on the DHCP server. So this is now properly a DHCP server. Even though we have been calling it DHCP server before, we now did the appropriate thing right now. All right, so what do we now do to begin? I'm not sure the next thing to do. Let's just look around. Remove binding, authorize. So we authorize this DHCP server, definitely. We now have authority to do stuff. Backup, restore. You can back up and restore from your system. Not with the other. So properties, what do we need to do here? Nothing really. All right, so what about the scope? IP version 4. Display statistics, new scope, configure new scope. Configure failover. All right. Next, specify the partner server to use for failover. You know what failover is? We'll be talking about it, replication. So what's the partner server? What's the server that this DHCP service should be replicated to, so that in case anything happens, it would pick up. This is what you are, from our yesterday's experience, we see that this is what we're always looking to do. Now, once you can enter the IP address of the destination and this system recognizes it by giving it a green, then we are good. Of course, we call our servers not by their name, but by the IP addresses. Do you remember the IP address of our, okay. No, I do not expect you to remember. Let's look it up. So our IP address here is, what is it? 192.254.100.101. So that is the server to which we want to replicate. So we say 192. What? 254.100.101. All right, so we add this server. All right. Send a server, select a server you want to add to the console. Of course, this is the server. This is two. So that is the server. So it's already selected, right? So yes. There are two servers there, DC1 and DC2. So if we wanted to add a new one, that's why you ask us. But there's no new one to add. We already added what we want to add. All right, so guess we are good. Add server, select the server. We already added it and it accepted it. It even resolved the IP address to the domain name. In this case, domain name. So for it to recognize it, it means it's good. Using a reverse lookup. All right, so okay. Any error? Trying to communicate. Okay. All right, so it looks good. All right, so that server is already added, and then we'll say next. All right, so what does this mean? This one is telling you that we saw this before, right? No, I don't think we've seen this. Now there are two DNS servers. You know, it's replicating. Because it's replicating, it means that it's live. It's not like backup. Backup is dormant, just there. Anytime you need, you go and wake it up. But replicating means it's live. Whatever is happening here is being transferred live to the other one. So it means ultimately that you have two DNS servers. So if you have two DNS servers and requests are being made to both for DNS services, then you can do load balancing by sharing that request between the two servers, DC1 and DC2. How do you want to share them? 50-50% or 60-40 or something? That's what it's asking you here. So this idea of sharing a long queue of requests between multiple services, in this case, servers. It's called load balancing. Load balancing. We'll do more about load balancing, but that's basically what it means here. All right, so you look around here, or you can do hot standby. Oh, I don't want load balancing. I don't want the other one to be active. Let it just be on standby, so that whenever this one goes down, that one will automatically come up. That's the meaning of standby. I think that's more like what you want to do. So whether you want to use that other DNS server as load balancer or as standby is up to you. But let us do standby here. All right. Then what else is there to do? We're using it as standby, which means only the primary DNS server is working and the other will come up only if the first one fails. So who am I to be able to do this work? I'm the administrator. If you are the administrator, that DHCP server password, you said commit when you committed. I don't know if you remember what we clicked commit earlier on, what we were configuring at the very beginning. Enter the password here. That my password is. All right, so I enter that password and I say next. All right, finish. Everything is successful. So everything is good. So we have been able to successfully create the replica DHCP server. All right, so let us go here and see if we can experience, if we can see changes based on what. Okay, first of all, what do we have here? IP version 4, scope. Let's see. Okay, I think we recognize that one. So let's come here and see if that is recognized here as well. On a secondary domain controller, IP version 4, scope, IP pool. Oh, same thing. All right. So apparently it's working. So I just don't need to refresh or anything. Properties, there's nothing to say. So it's working. There's nothing to say. Okay, just to confirm that it's working. You know, normally we'll do something to test. What can we do to test? Just making sure new scope, configure failover. No, we're not configuring failover here. We're configuring failover from the other one. Replicate failover scope. Let me just, I said I was going to give you a note the other day. What are you seeing here? So this is what I just taught. Yeah, we just went through that. I just taught you that. So screen, primary domain, secondary domain control. All right, so it looks good. Looks like it's working without problem. Well, let me just look at the note to see if there's anything I should let you know about DHCP configuration. Well, apart from that, it's so simple to do. DHCP. All right. All right, so on DC2, simply refresh to see DC2 DHCPs and no. So what we do is just replay. There is really nothing to do. The only thing that I did mention all right. So the only thing I didn't mention here, let me come back here and look around. For that scope, or IP version 4, replicate DHCP failover scope. This action will replicate the configuration of all failover scopes on this server to the respective partner server. Do you want to click yes to that? Hello?
Sir.
Do you understand what this one is saying?
Yes.
Okay, so
okay, that's
all right. So we're just looking around to make sure everything is good already, but look at this. Does this make sense? Replicate failover scope. What does it do? It says this action will replicate configuration of all failover scopes on this server to the secondary server. Is that something you want to say okay to?
Yes.
Definitely. So yes, and it tells you starting to replicate. All right. Identical to the failover. So everything is good. Fine. So everything we have here now on Dhcp is now replicated to the secondary server. You still need to carry out tests, even though that one is telling you everything is good. So whatever you have, huh?
Carrying out a test wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay. Well, okay. So what kind of test do you want to carry out? What can we do here to make it reflective? What can we do? Okay. Let us. We have only two systems here, right? Which one is this? What can we do? What can we do? What did we do in the last one? Let us introduce a change. Okay. Let us change the scope. Let us introduce something. Let us reserve another set of IP address. We already reserved 1 to 99. Let us change the scope here now. So we reserve from 1 to 99 on that line. So let us reserve another set and see if this set will be reserved. Let's come here.
New scope.
We want to modify existing scope. IP version 4. Scope. So where do we add new exclusion range? Okay, I think that's it. So let us add a new block of IP to exclude. Let us say 192 dot what?
254.
Dot 254 dot 100 dot what do we exclude? We used 100 to 1 to 200. Let us exclude 200 to 192.254.100 to from 200 to what?
54.
250. Okay.
So we already reserved the. What did we exclude before so that we don't repeat? We already excluded
1 to 99.
1 to 99. Okay. Okay, 1 to 99. So let us exclude 200 to
250.
Anything, maybe to 205 from the block available. All right, so we have added that. So there's a change here now. This is it. So there are 3 lines, and then we have also reserved 300. All right, that's fine. So let's see now if this is if this will be reflected here. Normally you give time so that you can synchronize. So let's keep refreshing until refresh. All right, so that one is under address pool scope. Address pool. It's not showing yet. It should show. I'll give it some time. All right, so while we're waiting for that to show, the address pool. All right, address pool on the right place. We already said maybe clicking that button again will make it faster. So we say replicate the configure, no, remain replicate relationship. That one is already done, so we didn't have to do replicate actions. Replicate failover script. The screen will indicate the progress of the replication script. All right, so nothing really new there. If we just wait long enough, this one should resolve. You should see the modifications we made. All right, so while we're waiting, any question? Let's try again and see.
Yes, sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah. All right, it's showing now. Look at it.
Okay.
So the test works. All right, question.
Yes, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Before we configured the DHCP and the DNS, it appeared like the domain controller was working normal. Why do we need to configure the DHCP again?
Configure the DHCP where we have two servers here. So which of them are you talking about?
For the primary domain controller.
Yeah, that was it. Were you in class yesterday? Somebody asked this question yesterday, and we said when we did this, when we allowed the domain controller to do it the first time, it was only installed. So when the ADDC was configuring and it brought alongside the DHCP and DNS, that was only the installation. It is when we now go to tools to click them and go through that configuration. That is when we configure. So you are confusing installation with configuration. So the actual configuration was when we configured by going through tools. So we did not configure twice. So what you are regarding as the first configuration was only installation.
Okay, maybe I'm still yet to grasp the purpose of the DHCP and the DNS.
You should grasp it by now, because this is like.
I'll go back to previous classes videos.
So even though you saw them there, you saw them. Where's the domain controller now? Let me just give me 1 second. So for the DHCP, we are done with this. This one is working. So even though you saw the ADS, DHCP, and DNS here the first time, it does not mean necessarily that they have been configured. They have only been installed. In order to configure ADDS, we needed to click, you remember when it said click to promote? In order to configure DHCP, we need to come to tools, DHCP, and do it here. This is the configuration. In order to configure DNS, we need to come here and then do DNS and then complete the configuration here. It's only after we have configured here that we can now go to a second system and say, whatever we have configured there, go and replicate it. It doesn't make sense.
It does. You know, the tools are very much, so sometimes when you just use the Active Directory users and computers, you just feel that you've done a lot.
Yeah, the Active Directory users and computers. Yeah, that's true. The Active Directory users and computers only helps you, is the part of, it's actually the Active Directory. That is the database of all the objects, computers, users, printers, everything on the network, everything. The database of everything is there. So you can manage the entire domain centrally from Active Directory users and computers. But beyond just the Active Directory, well, Active Directory is not just, it's the main thing. Beyond the Active Directory from where you can manage and administer your entire network, there are other tools for viewing what is going on, for setting a lot of, I keep telling you that Windows is wide, but we cannot cover everything just within tools. But of course, we are not actually expected to cover everything. They come in stages. This stage 1, intermediate stage, and the advanced stage. So what you should just bear in mind, even though there are so many tools, is that when you want to do network administration, that is managing users, printers, folders, files, and every other thing that's on the network, you use Active Directory domain and services. But when you want to add services, not managing objects now, not administration, well, it's still part of administration, but not specifically managing objects. You want to add services to the server so that the server will do more work. Then you have to look for the service and configure that service for the server. DNS is a service, DHCP is a service, IIS is a service, and there are many other services depending on what you want your computer to be able to do for you. Then you have to lift that computer to the level of being able to do that service by putting that service protocol on it and configuring it. Then that server now becomes your.
I think I'm more clear now.
So if you can only work with Active Directory services, you are good as a Windows Server administrator. But if you can do all these other ones, it means you are even better, because in addition to being a network administrator by being able to use Active Directory services, you can also make your server do other stuff by being able to install the different services that will make that server able to do new services. So a server might just be a domain controller, a DHCP, and DNS server, like we're having now. But in operations, you can have one server being able to do 10 services. So in addition to those three, it will also be able to do other services that you saw in tools and were able to integrate. And then you actually see those services when you attempted to make your computer your domain controller, and then there was a list of services. You only selected 3.
Yes.
That list of services are other possible services you can install on that same server to make that server do those jobs, and there are many of them.
So that's to say that there's so much potentials in the server.
Yes, so much enterprise. It's enterprise. Enterprise means almost limitless possibilities. Enterprise can do stuff, especially when it relates to security. However, at a higher level, the level you should be moving to next, you see that even though Windows Server claims to be able to do all of this, there are other Linux specifically operating system would do a lot of these functions better than Windows would do it. So yeah, I'll just stop there for now. So to answer your question, yes, a lot of potential. So many, in fact, you cannot do it all. So many things. Things as simple as you don't want your keyboard to show control or delete anymore. You don't want people to be able to copy from anywhere on this domain. Just copy and paste will not work. All those little things that you just take for granted. You can go as the network administrator to use the tools available there to either enable or disable these things. In fact, you see a long list of possibilities, things you can do. Under security policy, we looked at password policies, for example, did we?
Yes, we did.
So around that area, you see long list of things you can check. You don't want you want to disable your CD-ROM drive so that people don't bring their CD to come and watch movies in the office. Just go there and check it. Now, why? The network administrator did something under the group policy domain. That is why it affected the entire domain. If it was just a standalone enterprise operating system or standalone Windows 10 enterprise, which also has those features, then you'll be doing it under local security policy. But because you did it under domain security policy, it will affect all objects in the domain. A lot of potentials. The advanced question would be, is it worth learning all the possible features you can execute on an enterprise environment? Is it worth learning all of them only on Windows? Why not diversify, learn the ones that Windows can do best, and then diversify your skills, learn a bit about this, so that whatever you're finding it difficult to do this, you can use this. And this one will actually work much better than Windows, because Windows is heavy, a lot of graphics, very, very heavy. And then because of that burden, you are giving Windows one room to occupy in your apartment. And then it's bringing along so many tools, and it's already occupying half of the room. The work is coming to do, why would it not do it? So sometimes you need an operating system that will just occupy only a very tiny part of the room so that you still have enough room for your real work. All right? So Windows is good because by Windows, by the time you study other operating systems like Linux, you appreciate OS better generally. But generally speaking, for networks of 10,000 objects and below, Windows should serve you good. But for networks of 20,000, 25,000, 100,000, 1 million clients, no. You can't go and to design a network for an enterprise and say you want to use Windows for that kind of network. It will not take you serious. There are operating systems that are more specifically defined and designed for big networks. All right, questions? Somebody was going to ask on that. Oh,
hello, sir.
Our time is done. Yeah.
My question is, if we have a case where the primary domain controller is active,
okay,
but the primary DHCP is having issue, will the secondary DHCP automatically become active?
Oh, good question. Yes, because you already detached the for DHCP, yes. In fact, you do not even need to detach for DHCP. But if you work for DNS and you already click that detach button, even the DNS will automatically become active because it's a replica. Good question. So did you get the